Welcome to the Forest Creek Podcast. Today's a very special episode. It goes out to all the dads, the stepdads, the granddads, the uncles. People do that a lot in commercials now. I don't really know why they feel they need to.
Well, like they just name every type of father there could possibly be.
Every type of father figure, not just father. Today with me I have Jarrod.
Hello.
I have Kyle.
Hi.
Today is the day before Father's Day.
Side note, I actually get to include myself into that because I am now officially someone's crazy drunk uncle.
I thought you were going to say a father. And I was like, whoa.
No. Thank God. No, but...
In this economy?
In this... No, one of my associates, they got some kids, and because I've been doing a little bit of like, like the add one parenting where it's like the parent will say something, they'll say like, oh yeah, that and this, and then it's usually like halfway good advice and halfway mentally insane advice.
Yeah.
So she's like, congratulations, you're officially their drunk uncle. And I'm like, yes. Yes.
That's awesome. Maybe you can be a godparent.
I wouldn't mind that. I mean, well, this was the example is one of her, so she's got 3 kids, 6, 4, 2. And the 6-year-old opened a window and went outside, and the 2-year-old followed. And I kind of made the point of, hey, the whole reason why you broke out is because you knew you were in trouble and you thought this would make things better. And also imagine if you went outside, you got and your little brother that followed you got hit by a truck. How'd you feel about that? And then he kind of like had like a, yeah. And I'm like, come on, don't be stupid. That voice in your head that tells you to not do a thing, it's there for a reason. If it's telling you something, you should probably follow it. Now get me another daddy soda.
You told a 6-year-old what if your little brother had gotten hit by a truck?
Yeah, that's how my dad raised me.
You have to confront them with the truth.
Yeah, man.
So that they understand the danger of what could happen.
Yeah, man. It's like kids are insanely smart and aware insanely early.
Yes.
Like you can actually talk to a 4 or 5-year-old like an adult to a degree, obviously, but
you'd be vague
like
with certain
actual,
parts.
Yeah, but it's like about actual things like that. It's like, hey, like just being real with them is actually possible and they'll get it. It's crazy.
I just had a moment with the two of these guys where it was basically like the podcast, will you stop playing in that backseat or I'm going to have to turn this car around? That was more or less what just happened.
Hey, at least it wasn't a daddy day.
We had successfully started talking about the representation of dads in media. And of course, it's not something that any of us really can rightfully say we're happy or upset about. It's just kind of interesting because we're not dads. I just want to point out that while we're doing this Father's Day podcast, my dad is just doing housework.
Yeah.
He's down in the garage revving engines. He's literally, that's the garage door right now. He's like testing all the engines out. He was like about to start pressure washing. I swear to God. It's about to start while we're trying to record. You can still hear the garage door right now. This is probably...
And there it went. Y'all need to get a better garage door opener. That took an obscene amount of time.
It's an old thing. Also, like, what a great place for a studio.
Right on top
right
of the
above the
motor.
garage.
I
Right
think
on
we're
top.
actually on the motor. I felt it on my foot.
Yeah, we are literally right above where he was doing all of that. But that's just how it is. It's part of my childhood that I really enjoyed is just having typical suburban housework to do. Just like you got to go down to the garage, you got to clean it, you got to do stuff on the cars, you got to fiddle something with our boat, you got to make sure the lawnmower is fixed and going out. Like that is something I am pretty grateful for. In terms of a father-son dynamic where I was constantly running errands and doing chores, and it has really well prepared me for constantly running errands and doing chores.
I will say I actually kind of had like a double dosage of that because both my biological dad and the stepdad I had for most of my life were both kind of like automotive nuts, and I kind of learned 2 ways of doing it. One is the correct way, and the other way is the baler twine and cock gun way. Because my dad told me all the ways how to do it right, and my stepdad told me all the ways to get it done where it'll hold for another month when we can actually get the part.
I think I've heard this described before as there's the instruction manual way and there's the duct tape way.
Yeah.
Duct tape is like the Force. It's got a light side and a dark side, and it binds the universe together.
Probably.
What's interesting is I had a bit of an opposite childhood in that my dad did all of that stuff, like mowing the lawn, take care of the cars. Didn't have me or my brother do any of it.
Why not?
I have no idea. I think because he he likes doing all that stuff. He
Oh,
didn't
okay.
exactly particularly want
So what
slaves.
was selfish? He didn't.
Yeah, right? It was
Oh,
like at
that's
some point I was like, hey,
No.
let me mow the lawn. And he was like, no.
That's interesting because most dads will look at their sons and be like, free labor.
Yeah.
No, not slaves. Unpaid interns.
There you go.
Pretty much.
But what was interesting, one thing I'll be forever grateful for my dad for is that he really let me and my brother be like, essentially find out who we are. He was really free with that. He didn't have, as much as like every person does have, you have the expectations of how you want your kid to turn out.
Yeah.
And me and my brother are so very different from our dad. It's like he loves sports and we don't care about sports at all in the slightest. Like the biggest sport I care about is basketball. My dad doesn't care about basketball at all.
Which is hilarious.
Absolutely amazing. The one sport I would watch on TV, he doesn't watch on TV at all.
You're
But,
you're not a big fan of cricket or soccer or football?
Yeah, right? I don't really care for any of them. And he loves all of them. But yeah, it's like it let me just become the person I am instead of having to hide that person and be in the shell of who my dad wanted me to be. He just like would let us, he gave us so many freedoms in that area and taught and like raised us with various life lessons that were extremely important and that are general enough for everybody. Like a huge thing for my dad was the Rocky movie. Like that's like my dad has a lot of favorite movies and like it changes every week.
Who are your favorite TV dads?
I'm gonna call dibs on Hank Hill here.
My dad is basically Hank Hill. You don't have to be from Texas to know a lot about every tool in your garage and like care about cutting the piece of wood very straight and all that. Everything in terms of housework, from like replacing the bit under the sink to doing your own home renovations to, you know, let me show you how to work the buzzsaw properly and everything like that. So like I got the general tour of how to be your own handyman. And you don't have to be Hank Hill to do that and to wear glasses and have a square head. And my dad is all of those things. So just like minus the Americanisms and the Texan accent and, you know, living in Arlen, have Hank Hill for a dad. So, but,
Nice.
yeah, one of my favorite TV dads for sure. We did a short unit in college where we studied TV and like sitcom television. So we'd watch a couple episodes from like different eras of sitcom. And if you go like all the way back to the black and white era, where you had like Leave It to Beaver and that dad, or even like Mr. Drummond from Different Strokes.
Was he the racist one?
No, he was the guy who was the white lawyer who had adopted two young black boys. That was Different Strokes.
Okay, well, the exact opposite of the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. But it's funny. So like you have this very stalwart, some moral character. They're silly at some times, but they're generally very like, especially if you go like back in 50s and 40s era television, they were straight arrows. And when they came into the room, everybody suddenly had to behave. It was like really interesting to see that dynamic.
Real Andy Griffith Show type stuff.
Yeah. And then you turn today, you watch Modern Family, and you got Phil Dunphy, who's basically got clown.
Yeah.
Like, like
To steal a Bill Burr joke, dads back in the day were kind of like, oh God, dad's home, everyone huddle in the kitchen, don't do anything wrong. And now it's dad walks in, shut up. Like, you know, just like dad tries to say something, we're not talking to you, dad.
TV dads of the day, of that same time, were like, well, Henry, it's time for you to get your first gun.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
You know, at your age, I had a paper route. I think you should go get yourself a paper route.
Now that you're 13,
See,
you're
that's...
a man now.
Now that you're 13, we're going to send you off to the Vietnam.
That ain't done right. Actually, a lot of my childhood was very informed by Home Improvement and Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely that. Make sure you measure twice, cut once. You don't want to measure once and cut twice. And then just having, Tim Allen all the time. It's like, that was a lot of my childhood was Tim Allen. And then finding out later on that he was like a cocaine addict who got like arrested and now he's like just talks about politics all day.
Yeah. I think what was nice about I think I really appreciated about my dad thinking about this. The Bill Burr joke earlier. My dad was a really good balance between that, oh no, dad's home, everybody behave, and the Phil Dunphy idiot. Because it's it was that perfect balance of
He can be fun when it's fun time, but when you fucked up, you fucked up.
exactly. It's he was serious, and that's my father. But at the same time, we can go he'll teach me to throw a ball, and it's we can have a good time, and he'll laugh and tell jokes and stuff. There's a fine line between I know for a fact he's my father, and that is a different relationship than any other man I have a relationship with, and he's also a friend. It's both of those things.
Mm-hmm. I kind of understand a little bit what you're saying, because it's funny when you think about getting in trouble with either parent. When I got in trouble with my mom, it is misbehavior, right? Or it's not lining up with something perfect. And then so when she gets mad at me, it turns into an emotional situation. And I'm always when I was a kid, I'm counting down in these situations. The house is going to be intense until exactly about 6 o'clock when my dad comes through the door, because I know when he gets here, he just diffuses the emotional intensity of the situation. And then he can just kind of come in and he'll lay down the law, and I might still get in trouble, but the yelling will be over.
Yes. If mom's here, it's yelling. If dad comes in, then I get my ass kicked and everything goes back to normal.
There was definitely more yelling from my dad. My mom's a very quiet person.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No. My mom had a quality set of lungs on her. My dad, he had that stern, you done fucked up look.
Oh. My dad had both.
Oh, he had lungs and the look?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows the look. They can flash it and you did nothing wrong and you question all your life choices.
When it comes to dad dynamics, one of my favorite things as a child was figuring out the marketing campaign and figuring out how I'm going to make my arguments to get a single video game. Because a single video game, you got to keep in mind, this is an investment. There was this around the time when a game was $59.99. That's the full new game, right? So it's if you're going to get this is me having to months of work of look, this game is coming out. And I'm studying the trailers. I'm listen, Dad, it's open world. So that's not just a story that I'm going to play through and then it's going to be over. I'm going to spend time exploring the open world, and that will, now just buy one game and it's covering an amount. That was one of my stratagems.
You're killing me, man.
So I had kind of the exact opposite of that, whereas lived mostly with my mom and then came and saw my dad on first weekend every month and extended vacations. He was also kind of a vidiot. And I did a count as of about 2 months ago. Guess how many PS2 games we have? Or I guess he has that I occasionally steal.
I feel like I heard this number.
Shoot. I haven't heard the number, but I think I've seen the box. Boxes. Yeah. I think that was of DVDs, actually. Not necessarily
okay.
games.
I haven't gone through the DVD collection.
Oh, my
I can't count that high. North of 423.
Dude.
PlayStation 2. Unique PlayStation 2 games.
Oh my god.
A further 200 PlayStation 3 games and 80 PS4 games. So I will say the man is buying less games as time goes on, but I think it's also the case of the bargain bin thing.
Yeah.
So it was always one of those things of I wasn't always I never ran out of new things to play, but because they were the bargain bin games, they weren't always good.
Yeah.
This game's only $4. We're getting that. Just go and get all the $4 games.
To his defense, when I was a kid, I was really bad at video games, so it would take me forever to do anything. I think I spent the first 3 years I had a PS2, I was stuck on level 2 of Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Don't know that one, but I will say this right now, it's kind of like a father-son bonding thing, and I'm a little shout out to Naughty Dog, make another one, goddammit. Me and my dad still love Jak and Daxter, and it's kind of really bonding experience of it. He basically does a run-through of Jak and Daxter, because the first one is a collectathon. We got to get all 100 precursor orbs, all 900, whatever the monies are, and all that stuff. And you got to get everything to beat the game. And he can probably get it. I don't know what the world record is, but short of glitching the game, he can probably put up a competitive time.
Oh my gosh.
On Jak and Daxter 1.
My game for that era was definitely the OG Ratchet and Clank. Yeah. But other TV dads that's come to mind, I think somebody mentioned earlier the Heisenberg Malcolm in the Middle.
No, okay, well, so here's the thing. He I kind of again put on the more like goofy end of the spectrum. Like one of my favorite moments of him is like the mother is like telling the kids, "Hey kids, you got to go and go to school, or not go to school. You got to get a job and like start helping out the household." And then Hank comes in. "Hank, can you tell these kids about the job? You now listen here, kids. You got all your life to work. You need to focus on getting your education." "I want them to work." "Which is what you'll get. You'll get one hell of an education at a job. You don't live here room and board for free."
I was actually just thinking about some cartoon dads because the same actor, sorry, what's his name?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston. It's funny, the season 1 character design for Heisenberg, as we'll say, he very much resembled like Ned Flanders.
Oh, did he voice Ned?
No,
he didn't voice Ned.
no. But I was saying like the green shirt, the way that, like the glasses and the way he did his hair at the time. It was like that was a Ned Flanders inspired look. And then I think back to those dads and like the cartoon dads. You got Ned Flanders, you got Homer Simpson, and then on the wilder end of the scale, because like Ned Flanders is probably the straight arrow kind of super Christian. Like even he's still kind of a weirdo, and it's kind of funny over like the 30-something seasons of Simpsons, his personality's kind of changed a little bit.
I mean, it's pretty stayed where it is,
more or less. But it's like the multiple. He's gone through
when he's on his character breaks, or when he had that big emotional change when his wife died from the T-shirt cannon incident.
And then the other wife also died.
What'd she die from?
I don't remember, but it was something else. Yeah.
Don't marry Ned Flanders. The moral of the story.
And then on the opposite end of the Simpsons scale, you have Homer Simpson, habitually drunk, always overeating. Probably, I don't expect that he's a very financially stable person.
Hey man, he worked at a nuclear power plant.
They actually showed what his take-home pay was. I make more than him.
And then straight up chokes out his son. At every opportunity.
Also gives him wise moral nuggets like this one. Bart comes in. "This is the worst day of my life." Son. This is the worst day of your life so far. Right.
But you can still see that like in the arc of Homer's character throughout the episodes, he's usually just trying. He's like well-meaning. He's just an idiot, and that's why he keeps bumbling around. But then when you leave the Simpsons world and then you go into the other animated shows, Peter Griffin is a terrifying father figure.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get even crazier, South Park, Randy. Oh my God.
Is Randy the blue shirt dad?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
"No, Sharon, it's a group of people that talk about social change. We don't just drink all night."
Which night? Which night?
"It's not about...
Wait, was he the one
I'm not an alcoholic, Stan. I'm wine tasting."
He's red wine drunk.
Now I'm trying to remember. Was it him or was it someone else who got high on cat piss and proceeded to fight Kenny and a kid?
That was the kids. Oh wait, no, that was him. Yeah, that was him.
That was him.
Yeah.
Truly a father figure we shall strive for.
Amazing.
Keep in mind, now he's a small business owner with his Dadurday weed.
I think Randy has probably had the most fun character arcs of all of them. Because one of them is that like he straight up he goes to
Oregon,
China
I believe. No.
with Mickey Mouse. Actually went and like murdered Winnie the Pooh.
South Park is wild.
Yeah.
Well, you do get the reference, right?
No.
Okay, so
I've barely seen any of South Park.
No. This isn't a South Park thing. This is a real world thing. In real world, in China, if on the social medias you want to talk about Xi Jinping, the leader of China, they'd block his name in all the social algorithms. They started referring to him as Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
So the South Park interpretation of that, well, because you have Randy who's over there to try to make a weed deal with the Chinese, and he meets Mickey Mouse while he's over there because Disney's really in bed with China on a lot of stuff, and then to get in with the Chinese, they decide we're gonna go beat up Winnie the Pooh for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So in terms of
Matt and Trey are geniuses.
Cartoon dads, that one is definitely way up there as Randy on like the wild scale. But it's kind of interesting because if there's anything that those shows highlight is that person is more than a dad, right? They have like their own everyday lives.
Yeah. You know what I would like to talk about on that? When did you guys realize that your dad was just a person?
How so?
Well, for me, I always viewed, because I was the youngest, and so essentially I had this view of my family, both my parents and my brother, that they were like, I don't know, not necessarily perfect beings, but that they had it all together. You know,
when did you realize that they were just making up as they went along,
it's
like all
when
of us?
when did you realize that it's like, oh, they actually don't necessarily know what they're doing, and they're kind of just winging it. Like, as much as they've got plans and stuff, but it's like, oh, they're just like me.
Almost instantly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because here's the thing, I'm both of you only ever had biological dad, so I had biological and stepdad. Technically 2, but one wasn't really around that long. But 2 stepdads. My dad was pretty honest with me from day one. Like, see, that's the thing is, like you said earlier, you were pretty honest with the kid that, hey, what if your brother got hit by a truck? And I'm like, that's because that's what my dad was like with me. He was like, don't run off. And then he showed me Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my god!
I was like 7, I believe.
Dude.
And he was like, this is what happens when you run off. Don't do it. And with the other one, I kind of rapidly realized that he's an idiot, because more than a few times we'd go off-roading out in the bush and something would break, and then he'd be like, damn. And then he'd either have to figure a way out of it, or he'd be like, all right, I brought that thing to fix this, right? And then he'd go look in the back of his truck and go, I just think, remember, it's just me like playing in the mud out in this mud pit where we went like off-road, and I just hear from the truck, fuck. And I'm like, he forgot it.
I mean, I think I'm on the opposite end of that, because at times I'm a lot more conscious of it now, but I'm definitely someone who, when I was that age, I completely took my father figure for granted as my actual father. And so that even now, when I think about it, is like, he's still in my head, archetypical dad, still Egyptian Hank Hill. I think what I'm beginning to understand is that I will slowly become that out of necessity. So that I'm now developing many of the same appreciations and many of the same ways of thinking about solving problems. Is that, like, it's not about realizing that my dad is like me. It's realizing that I'm slowly becoming him in that way.
Interesting.
I mean, how much do you see that in yourself?
God, I hope not. But I'd like to point out there, God, I hope not, because, don't get me wrong, love my dad, amazing person. He's an asshole. My stepdad, my respect for my stepdad has gone down as the years have gone by. So if I end up as either one of those people, something has gone a little bit wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I love my dad, and as far as work ethic and always, like, you know, be grinding. If you're ever not working, it's not because there's no work, it's because you're not looking hard enough. And basically grind all the time, and when the fun time comes, you'll have money to play. All good moral lessons. His opinion of women, less so. His general, like, you know, disposition, less so. There are parts of my dad that I really would hopefully never incorporate into my day-to-day life, and I hope I never end up like my stepdad. So let's go with that.
Who was your positive father figure, if you had one?
Well, again, I say that, like, you know, that's the thing. It was mostly, as far as work ethic and general disposition, that is from my dad. But I try and more personality-wise, I kind of just came into this based off of, like, you know, doing jokes and acting certain ways and seeing how people responded.
Interesting. What about you, Jarrod? Positive father figure in your dad, or did you, like, pick it up from other people too?
From other people too, but I think, yeah, definitely from my dad, because he's a very positive father figure. It's like, obviously there's negatives because everybody has that, and we tend to focus more on the negatives. And I had a period of my life where I only focused on the negatives of my dad, which was not the nicest thing to do to him, considering all he's done for me. But one thing I think I would like to grow into in my dad as a figure is, like, the amount of love he has for his family, because he's always told me and my brother our whole lives that it's like, no matter what, he absolutely loves us and he's proud of us. And that, I know, I'm under the impression that the majority of people don't get that. And so it's like, the more, so I grew up with that, and I still get that. And, like, he'll randomly text, just hope you know, I'm super proud of you and I'll always love you. And I'm like, what?
The reason why I'm laughing a little bit is because I can imagine it's like you're feeling really guilty about something that you're doing, and so you send that text off just to like kind of put out that, hey, I'm still a good person even though I'm really drunk right now. But yeah, no, again, like I think there's a lot of things again on my side of that are similar that I also take for granted, because it wasn't until like in high school is when I started having friends whose parents were divorced. And by the end of high school, actually, most of my friends' parents were divorced. And
Well, they made it that far.
I don't think it was even through the process, just the people that I got to know, right? And most of them, their parents were divorced. And that kind of, I slowly became aware of like this, I don't want to say it's like disposition or anything like that, but like you can tell these guys are a little bit different than me, right? I walk with a little bit more confidence than they do. That maybe the confidence they have is not inherited. It is developed. It is brought into them by necessity. They have a different makeup that is not as closely informed as mine is from a father figure. But in terms of like people who aren't your dad, who can still have that father figure benefit for you, definitely what's interesting is I think I developed a lot of that friend side of a father figure with my uncle. Because especially I got to know this when I was like coming up as a kid, is that my uncle was very much into film and filmmaking. So I can always go up to him and talk about movies. And naturally, because of movies, you can talk to him about stories. And he's a huge sci-fi guy, like book collections of Star Trek.
Is this the uncle that made that like moon CG thing that you edited?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wrote one of his movies a long time ago. I used to be in quite a few of them and like show up and help out on set and all that stuff. Because, you know, I think it fostered a love of filmmaking in me too. It's just an interesting idea to me that some people consider their dads as friends.
Yeah, because it's interesting in that my dad's always going to be my dad, and it's very different from a friend. And I don't know exactly if this is the right way to put it. It's like I wouldn't necessarily talk to my dad the way I talk with my friends, but I also would. I don't know. It's something different.
I can actually word this in a pretty unique way, and y'all get ready. Jarrod, I'd start looking away from the microphone because you're going to laugh at this one. When you guys say, hey, I look at my dad in a different way than I do all the other like male figures in my life, I can give a direct one-to-one example, and this is what it is. If not for him being my dad and for that biological connection, I would probably never hang out with my dad because he is an asshole. Like, here's the thing. I love him to death. If he needs anything, I help him bury a body, whatever he needs. He's an asshole.
So it's the family principle for you?
It is, because it's a case of we have next to no shared hobbies. We fight on almost everything. I mean, quite frankly, it's hard for us to be in a room for like more than 10 minutes for us, basically just like, you know, one of us will say something, the other one will disagree with it, and then it almost goes to blows. That's just the way it is between us. That's just our general dynamic. But it's one of those things where I love him. He's my dad. I respect the hell out of him for everything he's given me, everything he's done for me, how he always helps if I need help. God, he's an asshole.
So where do you think that love and respect for family comes from in you?
I think it's just generally deserved.
Yeah, I feel like that's just an inherent quality in your personality that you really cherish and like hold on to family.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I only got one dad. What am I going to do? Throw him to the curb?
A lot of people would.
Hey,
which is wild.
We were talking about Tim Dillon earlier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. My dad recently picked up this book by I can't remember the name of the guy, but it's the guy that plays Saul Goodman, Better Call Saul.
Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. So Bob Odenkirk came out with a book called Comedy, 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 and my dad bought it because he loves that stuff. And he said he was telling me, because we were having our father-son chat that's not exactly like a friend chat, but also is, you know? And he told me that Bob Odenkirk wrote a single paragraph on his father, and essentially it was how terrible he was. And it's like, I thought about it for a second. I told my dad, I think I could write a few pages on how great you are.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, right?
On a side note, I always really appreciated how your dad, when we're just sitting down in the basement in a totally different world playing D&D, and he would just come down with a fact or like something interesting he saw on TV.
Yeah.
Like he's
Or like
watching
a
Discovery Channel, just comes down and like, hey, you want to hear about some manatees?
That's
And
like straight up. He's like, guess what I just saw in the game?
Yeah.
And I
Dude.
was just, it's like a fun little break from whatever the heck we were doing.
That's my dad. It's not even like out of the ordinary at all because he'll just randomly do that. I'd just be sitting in my room on something, he'd pop in, yo, guess what I just saw? And he would tell us about whatever. Or if he wanted to show me and my brother something, he would just yell out like, Matt, Jared, come downstairs. And we would come downstairs and he would show us something and then we would like laugh or see it and leave.
hey, I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of one of those things where I'm probably going to say something here and you're both gonna be like, no, I haven't experienced that. When your parents, dad especially, tell you like life lessons or stuff that happened in their history that you sound like, wow, that sounds like that sucked. But they say it with like a reverence and like, man, I wish back for those days. Like my dad tells me stories about like, how he always went to concerts, did a lot of drugs and stayed up wicked late and then went to work the next day. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like it sucked.
Sounds very irresponsible.
That was very irresponsible. You managed heavy machinery. That doesn't sound safe.
Oh my gosh.
Or like he'll tell me stories about like, girlfriends back then. I'm like, wow, was there any emotional connection? Nah, but she had great rack.
Oh my gosh.
Or like he'll tell me like about stories about his friends like from back in the day. I'm like, wow, that's straight up crime. And I'm like, wow, literally everyone you associate with is an asshole. Like, nothing good. And then like he'll like say like, oh, what are you doing with your friends? Oh, I'm going and playing some Dungeons and Dragons. I'm playing Magic. I'm playing Warhammer. Oh, that's fun.
Just not a care in the world for anything.
Just not a care in the world for anything. Like I think he like mildly judges me because he still thinks that I'm a kid for my hobbies.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I'm like, I go to sleep at a halfway decent time and don't have chemical addictions. I think I'm doing moderately better than you at this point.
I am a responsible adult.
There are other stories, but I'm kind of trying to keep this like the PG-14
Yeah,
level.
I appreciate that. One of the things I actually want to ask you about this is, do you think that we're spoiled?
I less so think that you were spoiled and more so you guys had what should be the average.
Just the more, I guess this was
At
the more
least the
normalized
baseline.
idea. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
congratulations. You guys are at 0 to plus 0.1 to negative 0.1. Congratulations.
Average. I don't know. I feel like I'm in the almost +1 category here. If that's the scale.
No, not a 0.1. You're a full 1.
Like a full 1.
Oh yeah.
I feel pretty happy about it.
100
Yeah.
feet. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like, 'cause it's like
I mean, I don't know what the scales are. I mean, how
Who knows?
much
Like,
for the,
Negative 10
is like
to
100
positive 10.
Is positive 10 like Jesus Christ and his dad is God, or like what? What are we talking?
No. We're going like positive 10 is your dad is both rich and not an asshole and gives you things, but still imbues in you a positive work ethic.
Elon Musk's dad? I don't know. Is that it?
I mean, does he instill a positive work ethic in his kids, or just shower him with gifts so his kids are entitled pricks? Because there is both giving your kids the stuff they want, but making them work for it, and instilling with them. Because just giving your kids a whole bunch of gifts doesn't make them good. It just makes them entitled. Like, how many stories have you heard of, like, oh man, this guy's great. He started his own company. He did all this stuff. He went from nothing to here, and then his kid's a prick.
We got to do an episode about Elon Musk in the future, because I'm just thinking about it, because like I've seen a lot of pictures of him when he was like much younger and working on stuff, and like just looked like another person just putting in the effort to make their dream come true. And I guess after PayPal, he was pretty set, and then it's just Tesla and Domino's.
And then makes his own space company because that's what you do.
Well, I mean, if you really care about making a space company, you'll start figuring out the plan, and then you'll execute. And if you have the resources, it just makes it easier to execute.
yeah.
I know he just had a kid with oh god, what was the Grimes?
Yeah.
A12.
X-12?
X-12. Thank you.
That's it.
Oh yeah, Ash. I think that's what they call him.
Is that his first kid, or does he have more kids?
I have no idea.
That's his latest kids. I think he's got three.
We'll
three or
save
four.
that for the Elon Musk
Yeah, either way.
biography episode.
One thing I wanted to say on that though, that idea of the father that works too much to be with his kids.
I mean,
Because like think about that and that idea of Elon Musk, and like Casey Neistat, I think was guilty of this looking at his early videos, because my dad got really into Casey Neistat for a while. Like, what do you guys think? Did you have that experience of the dad that worked almost nonstop and barely saw you and wasn't at home much?
Well, it's one of those things of I kind of had that innately because I only saw my dad first weekend of every month. But from what I heard, to like support me and support himself, like he basically worked 2 jobs for like 10 years. At the other end of the spectrum, or I guess same end of the spectrum, my stepdad, he was a pipe fitter, so he'd be gone for like 2 months and back for a month. So it's one of those things where I think both of them kind of ingrained in me, like the whole like, hey, man provides.
Yeah.
If you're at any point you're not working, it's not the situation. It's why aren't you working?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm grateful to have spent quite a bit of time with my dad, especially like more so, especially like since graduating high school. We've spent a lot of summers like out in the lake, just jet skiing or going
Nice.
even hiking or just doing stuff that's cool. Like I've got plenty of opportunities to do that. I've got plenty of opportunities to just sit down and watch Home Improvement or like movies and stuff like that. And like I said, any housework or chores I was involved in. So it's like I spent quite a lot of time with my dad. I'm pretty happy about that. And I never really got the impression that he was just someone who worked too much to see us. I mean, what about you, Jarrod?
It was... I don't really remember a lot, but generally, no, my dad worked a regular shift, and we saw him in the evenings and stuff.
9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
Yeah. But I do know, I never knew it at the time, and I don't remember it at all, but he's told us when we were younger, it's like, he worked graveyard shifts for 2 or 3 years or something, or maybe it was 5. I think it might have been 5 years he worked
graveyard shifts for 23 years. Just never noticed.
Yeah. But like... we would, my mom would take me and Matt to school or daycare or whatever, however old we were, and we would pull out of the driveway, and then apparently we would see our dad pull in, and we would be like waving at him and be like, "Where's Dad? What's he doing?" And he would just be like waving at us and get out and go to bed.
Man, if that was
but at the same time, sorry to interrupt.
No. Just if that was the case, it'd be one of those things where it's like either leave 5 minutes late for daycare, or have Dad leave 5 minutes early from work, and just get like a minute with the kids. Don't just be like, the things I work for are now going away.
I think the good thing about the trade-off is that he would sacrifice sleep. I'm learning now, because he would pick us up from school all the time. Oh. Like my dad always picked us up from school, and I never questioned it. I never thought about it. But it's like he would get like 5-6 hours of sleep maybe, so he could wake up early and come get us. And there were times where he would pick me and Matt up from daycare and school because we were so young. And but he would like wake up, go pick us up early from wherever from daycare, and then bring us back and fall asleep. And we would just run around the house doing whatever while he was dead tired of sleep.
You watch the kids, right? Yep. Yeah. Definitely watch the kids.
Something just occurred to me. I was just thinking back that there was an actual short period of time when I was like 12 or something that my mom brought me and my sister, and I guess like I don't know what brought this on, but she's just like, I want you guys to start calling me by my first name. I want you to treat me like I'm your friend, not just your mom. Yeah, that was my mom.
Wow.
And then that lasted for like a week.
That spoiled rich kid. The Kathleen, get me water.
Is that spoiled rich? I don't know. I feel like a lot of middle class kids do that too.
Yeah.
Mom, the meatloaf.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, kids that call their parents by the first name and yell at them. Oh, I don't know how the heck they do it.
I don't understand. Kids that yelled at their parents.
That's the parents.
Deborah, get me a Coke.
That look in your eyes was perfect.
How like,
dude, those are parents that don't discipline their kids. It's like their kids just run around.
Hard take here. Hard take. While not advocating the direct beating of children, when kids act up, they do need to be spanked.
I don't know about that, because what's the difference?
So, beating is when you do it for no good reason. Spanking is when you've basically given them chance, and then you're like, okay, you know what you're doing is wrong. I've given you many times to like change your ways of doing this. You need to be spanked. And I know because I was an asshole kid and I kept pushing the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's actually about hitting the kid. Like this is my theory is that it's not about the physical impact. It's about the alarm effect, right? It's the same thing of like, if you want your kid to stop what they're doing, you go from here to stop that. Like you just kind of raise the volume real quick because that's like an alarm, and the alarm conditions misbehavior, right? Like I've noticed this when I'm trying to like teach in class, because I teach kids in the thing. I don't yell at them obviously, but I'm trying to get this point across. I'm trying to make sure the class is interested, but then one kid is goofing out, go David, just like kind of get his attention. Like it's, you just raise the alarm for a second, right? I think people think that the only way to do that is stop that,
which I think my dad explained it perfectly. It doesn't make sense to hit your kid for hitting their brother. How does that, like, imagine yelling at your kids to quiet down. That doesn't make any sense because you're using what they're doing to make them stop doing that.
What is it? It's the theory of escalation. There can always be someone who does it worse to you. So do you want to do it to someone else?
Wait, what?
There can always be someone who does it worse than you. So why do it to someone else?
Yeah.
You just try to teach your kid physics so you don't hit your brother.
Well, no, not physics. It's a case of, okay, why are you poking him? He can kind of turn around and punch you.
Yeah.
So it's a case of why start the escalation?
Yeah.
Because someone can go from step 1 to right to 10. It's kind of like that whole thing of I poke you, you punch me in the face.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things of like, okay, we're not going to get this ball rolling. We're going to stop this now.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think spanking is the way to go about it because... Or like hitting of any sort for disciplinary purposes.
Well, I mean, like, I want to just say that's a pretty widely held opinion now that you shouldn't beat your children.
It's not exactly new. And like I was raised with it. My parents didn't like the idea of spanking. And the idea I had behind it in terms of just hitting in general is at some point the kid gets used to it and goes, yeah, all right. There's no more alarm effect. There's nothing about it.
That's a good point.
But whenever it's like my dad would raise his voice or get mad or anything, that sustained through the years. I would never be like, oh yeah, he's yelling again. It was always, oh shoot, this is serious.
Well,
right.
For that point, why is it that all of a sudden the yelling is accepted, but the hitting is all of a sudden that diminishes in quality?
I don't know.
Wouldn't they both kind of like establish the I fucked up effect?
Yeah, but I think the hitting it's a different dynamic because,
Can I just point this one thing out? As we kind of noted earlier, like there's a lot more, the Deborah can have a Coke, or the modern child.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a last 20 to 25, 30 year thing.
Yeah.
Since when have they stopped allowing parents to beat their kids? I'm not saying gets the wire brush and goes to town or not wire brush. Level of parenting is good. Not the belt. Or what was it? The Goodwill Hunting. He'd put a belt, a wrench, and a pipe on the table and say, "Choose."
Oh my gosh!
We talked about movie dads. Can we think of any good video game dads? And I kind of like to start the ball rolling with one of my favorite game developers, David Cage.
Oh my gosh!
In Heavy Rain, after you kind of screw up and your one kid gets hit by a car.
Goodness.
The second kid, there's one sequence pretty early in the game where like he's coming over to your house for a little bit. And you can do basically anything with your kid. Like, you got like a little chalkboard in the corner that shows like, should eat around this, snack around this time, eat around this time, homework this time, bed this time. But that's kind of like a more of a guideline. Quite literally is entirely an option for you to go to the fridge, grab a beer, and pass out drunk up in the bed. Or be a productive dad and make your kid a nice chicken dinner.
Yeah.
Does it influence the rest of the story in any way?
No spoilers. But it's one of those things of like, I was like, oh, so this, or the even better option, go upstairs and sit in your studio that you do your architecture in, and there's a little VHS in the corner, and watch home movies of your kid that got hit by a car.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's great.
Dude, that game is freaking wild.
Oh, Heavy Rain's amazing. I will say this right now. It is ironically a good David Cage game.
On the topic of game dads, I can think of two off the top of my head related to Naughty Dog, actually. And
Joel?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, in terms of father figures, that's such a, like, the whole series is held together by that dynamic of Joel and Ellie.
And their affinity for golf.
Yeah, and giraffes or whatever. But the fact that like Joel represented such a, when we talk about dad archetypes, It's
Well,
like,
actually, that'd probably be the
Sorry, is
closest.
this The Last of Us?
yes.
Okay.
Country guy who lost
Yeah,
his
yeah.
daughter and then
Dude.
like,
The first 10 minutes of that game made me cry.
wow.
Well,
Oh
actually,
my gosh,
If I
dude.
may say, that would actually probably be the closest archetype to my dad, because much like how there's pretty midway point of the game, like, you know, they got the truck, they go off into the city for a second, the one guy comes out wounded, and he's like, nah, he ain't wounded. I know, because I did that shit back in the day where I, like, betrayed people and, like, you know, did banditry. I've literally listened to my dad describe these things of, like, when I went for my driving, defensive driving course, my dad always told me, maintain, like, 2 car lengths behind the guy in front of you, so that if someone tries to carjack you, you can accelerate away. And they were like, oh, you maintain 2 lengths, that if someone tries to rear end you don't rear end that guy. And it's like, my dad taught me all these life lessons, because everyone around is an asshole, because he's surrounded by people in his life who were assholes and did these things.
Yeah, the other dad I was actually thinking of from Naughty Dog was at the end of the 4th game, Nathan Drake is a dad. They do this bit. It's not a spoiler for any case, but it's like
I mean, it's kind of a...
not really.
It answers the will they, won't they.
Whatever. I mean, will who won't who? You know, I haven't said anything, but they do this little like epilogue scene in the game where you play as Nathan Drake's daughter walking around. And that was just kind of interesting. This again brings that thing in that like your dad is not just a dad. He was a whole other thing before you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the classic thing like that.
Oh, sorry. One of them just popped in my head. John Marston,
Dang.
the video game dad.
Okay, if I may say, John Marston sucks as a dad. Well, okay, because think about it. Throughout all of Red Dead 2, it's like you need to spend... No, okay, I can't do the accent, but you need to spend more time with your family.
Yeah.
And then in the main one, Red Dead 1, like the entire game is, yeah, he's going out to do these missions to get his freedom so he can spend more time with his family, but it's still, he spends all this game away from his family, dies, spoilers for an 8-year-old game, and then his son turns out like him. So if anything, that's the exact opposite of effective parenting.
But in terms of somebody who's like somewhat a little bit more like, at least in the cutscene, John, he's a little bit more morally stalwart, but also his actual interactions with Jack, and when you start playing those beach or ranch missions,
Post-credit games?
not just the post-credit ones in Red Dead 2, but like the latter missions where you're just doing ranch work at your actual ranch, and you're like in this dynamic where you have like uncle who's drunk off in the corner, and then the wife and the kid are just around the ranch.
Well,
like,
he's
hey,
got
that's actually
lumbago. He's got an excuse.
it doesn't seem like it's a bad existence. It's just that like he has so much baggage that always comes for him in the middle of that. And definitely, you know, I think they do a better job of playing up the realism in Red Dead 2 when it's like, hey, he was in a band of criminals, and that's where this kid came up. So you're not spending a lot of time with your wife and kid? Well, what are you going to do? The feds are coming for us. It's like...
Oh, God, it's the IRS.
Don't worry, we're going to Tahiti.
I got a plan, Arthur.
I'm a flat Arthur. I love that one the most.
I'm a flat earther?
No, it's just like...
Is that what you said? I'm a flat earther. I got a
Dutch has
plan,
always
Arthur.
got a plan. It's like, we're going to go to this place. Like, Dutch, I don't believe it no more. We are not going to go around the world. The world is flat. What? I'm a flat Arthur.
I didn't see that before. That's a good one.
I'll find a link for you later on.
I'm just gonna like throw this out here real quick. God damn it, Red Dead Online, please include ranches. I want a ranch. I haven't given that game any DLC in like a year and a half. I hate myself. Anyway, can we think of any other good examples of video game dads?
You were going to say something before I cut you off with John Marston.
Was I?
I don't know. Maybe you just forgot it now.
I played Red Dead, the first one, a long time ago, and I honestly forgot that John Marston was a dad.
That's
So
a good
he was
point.
probably pretty bad.
Again, it's one of those things of like there's like an entire point in the sequel where it's like Arthur goes fishing with Jack because like, oh, John hasn't spent any time with the kid. Can you please go show him what being a father figure is? And then like 2 missions later, Arthur's like, look, you got a wife and kid here. You actually got to be a part of that. You can't just be a bandit. It's like, I know I got to be a parent. And it's like, then do it. And like literally like a couple hours later, you do that mission again because he's just such a not present dad.
Well, the playthrough of Red Dead, no two playthroughs are the same. It's very dynamic.
I mean, it's story missions. It's kind of hard to like,
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I mean, when I characterize John Marston as somebody who's always trying, well, like especially when he gets older, that's they did a very good job at young John Marston and old John Marston are two very different people.
I will say, like, the post credits Red Dead 2, where you kind of do like the whole family man thing, it's pretty good. It's again though, I will say he does kind of that thing that we've kind of been going back to, which is hardening the kid. In that, remember, in like the post-credit scene, Jack is like reading his Penny Dreadful little novel books about Knights of the Round Table and all that. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to go spend some time with Dad. We're going to go fishing. And the dog got bit by a rattlesnake, and I got to help so the dog doesn't die. And the kid's like freaking out. And it's like, just stop freaking out and work the problem. Or the other time where they go into town and like it's either the son or the postman, I don't remember, who says their real name, and like guy's like, "Oh, so you're the Marstons. Oh, you're not the Miltons. You're those criminals. I'm gonna go make some money." And literally, like, the dad then proceeds to shootify the posse that comes to get them, and like the son's kind of like freaking out, and it's like, "Look, what was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to do?"
Yeah, murder was the only way out of this situation.
Murder was the only way out of this situation. Quite frankly, son, the fact you didn't pop a shot off, I'm a little bit upset with you. You didn't even have to hit him, but like you didn't even pop a shot.
At least try.
At least try.
That was something that was actually on my mind a little bit when I was thinking about like situations like Ukraine or Afghanistan. How many dads out there are like, the enemy is coming? If you can't, and just like, what was that movie, The Patriot, with Mel Gibson, where he's like, reload for your brother?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Again, okay, so I think this is one of those things we're kind of getting to. Like, yes, there's like the archetypical goofy like stereotype for dad. Yes, there's the archetypical like, morality and like, like the central figure that everyone kind of like grows and builds around. There's also the realist dad who's like look, this is the way things are now.
Yeah.
It's time to adult.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like where you guys kind of like the moral center dads. I had this is the way the world is. You can whine and bitch about it, or we can solve the problem.
I mean, I had a good, understanding of the dangers of the world. It's not like my dad was never real with me.
Did you watch Silence of the Lambs at 7?
I watched 300.
I think that's a very unique experience for you.
Huh? You think that's a unique experience for me?
I think that's a unique you experience.
Okay.
Granted, my one coworker told me that when she grew up, her parents would be like, "We're going to be watching a horror movie, so go upstairs, and if you come downstairs, it's your own fault." And she would sneak downstairs, and she would just come downstairs and sit on the couch and watch it, and they wouldn't stop her.
Well, see, there's sneaking down. There's a moral to the story, son. You know what that is? If you see a stranger trying to, like, wanting help to get their furniture in the back of the van, tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yep.
Otherwise, they'll go down a well.
When it came to movies and my parents, it was romance is off limits, but there's pretty much no limit to violence.
Interesting.
So
That's why you're so violent.
Me and my dad watched like a ton of cop movies, a ton of war movies. We watched all of the Terminator movies. We would do that like as a regular marathon. I watched so many, like I watched 300 about the time it came out, and I must have been like 10 years old at most. But yeah, there wasn't really like a cap on violence. It was just like, hey, so long as you're watching it with me, even if it is a little violence, it's okay because I'm here to tell you that that's fake.
Yeah.
That was the big thing.
I'd like to point out the 2 examples you gave there of Terminator and 300. If you beat the kid, it turns out fine, because in 300, they overtly abuse the kids. It literally opens with Leonidas choke-slamming his kid into the dirt. And Terminator, remember the whole Sarah Connor thing of, man, I had all these abusive-ass boyfriends to toughen my kid up, and it's this robot who's like treating him like a good kid, and I'm like, yeah.
Talk about that reload for your brother mentality.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what Leonidas is thinking? You're going to be the king of Sparta, and everybody's going to come and try to take it.
No, yeah, bro, you got to be able to stab someone. You see your brother? He's next in line. Stab him. He had a brother, right? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen 300.
No clue.
I don't remember that. Well. Yeah. Any other movie or video game dads?
See, I could name quite a few, like, again, Patriot. There's tons of movie dads, but I can't think of any video game dads at the moment. Like, most of the time with video game dads, it's one of those things where they'd leave to go solve a problem. Like, they're not really like that's the thing. Most, when I think of, like, dads, I think of, again, I know you guys are the exception, but, like, they're over there earning the thing to keep the family alive. and then they show up and spend a little bit of time for the family to say, hey, look, my hard work is bearing fruit, back away again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a spin off and go history dads.
Whoa.
Shouts out to Philip of Macedonia, Alexander the Great's dad. The whole reason why Alexander the Great could even start that campaign is because his dad spent all this time conquering that area and pacifying the area and like holding it down as a king so that his son literally inherited the kingdom that he used to go all that conquest. And that's not to say Alexander wasn't brilliant, but he was brilliant because he had so many elements
that
around him.
foundation to build up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what? He got like lessons straight from Aristotle or something? Was that the one? Or even, let alone being a king, but then like even in the mythology of his lineage, it was believed that his mother was descended from Odysseus and then his father was descended from Achilles, so that he had these two Greek heroes in his bloodline in some sense.
That idea of laying the foundation reminds me of this one story from the Old Testament Bible. I think I'm getting this right. That David wanted to, I think it was King David, wanted to build the temple for God, or some Jerusalem king wanted to do this. And God essentially told him, it's like, you won't be the one to do this, your son will. And so instead of being like, oh, okay, and doing his own thing, he instead built up all the wealth and resources that he possibly could throughout the rest of his life, so that by the time his son was ready to start and he would pass on, his kid had this foundation to go off of, instead of just, all right, I guess I'm not the one, so I'll leave it up to you.
You know, come to think about it, like biblical dads, Abraham, the dad of dads.
Yeah.
You know, literally your descendants will be like the stars in the sky, right? That's it kind of makes me think of like granddads. Because, I mean, were you guys close with your granddads? I know.
One yes, one no. So kind of two separate ends of this.
Sorry, Kyle, pull it up too.
Yeah, sorry. One yes, one no. Two separate ends of the spectrum in that my mom's side granddad, Opa, Bert, he was basically kind of the same thing where, again, aloof, basically always out in the yard doing work, either mowing grass, building something, fixing something, more so wood than machinery, and spent a lot of time learning how to work with my hands with him. The granddad on my dad's side was out of my dad's side of the family's life for many years, made tons of money, and then kind of realized his own mortality and was trying to reconnect with his family by just throwing money at the problem. Which I love my mom's side grandpa, my Opa, very much. My dad's side grandpa, I was nice to him because I wanted inheritance. I'm not afraid to say it, because everyone else was treating him like an asshole because they didn't like the whole like did them dirty, whereas I was like nice because I'm like, wait, if they all treat him like shit,
I'll get like 90%.
Yeah. No, that was legitimately the calculus.
Smart kid.
I was doing the calculus.
Walk around putting little post-it notes on the stuff you want to inherit.
Yeah.
I never got to know my granddad on my mom's side. He passed away before I was born. I got to know my granddad on my dad's side very well. I saw him like at least twice a month, especially when I was a kid. It was probably almost every week. He was a surgeon. He was a surgeon in the army around the time of the Suez War. After that, he was a pharmacist. He worked for like drug companies for a while, and that's how he came to Canada. And yeah, I got to know. What's funny is that I never really picked up that much of personality from him. It was always just, that is granddad. But we would watch soccer together. He was like the only person I ever really watched soccer with. I knew he liked Sinatra music, and my one gift that I ever actually bought for him was a birthday gift. I bought him a fedora, like a nice one. You know?
And he joined a gang.
Yeah,
Started the mafia.
he was a
Oh no!
gangster.
Did you wear leathers and kind of like stand on street corners and like sing harmonically with the guys and have a switchblade that is actually a comb?
He had a quartet.
Oh, there you go. Ooh, no, I can't.
Yeah, but I have like nothing but good things to say about him.
Yeah.
In that sense, he was always friendly. He was always, I got a lot of approval from him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I never really did anything that was worthy or like disapproving, or that he would disapprove of.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, like generally positive father figures in my life, especially spread around. Like each of the men in my family have been like pretty good role models, I would say.
I will say, kind of like running it through now, I think that kind of like pretty much every single one of my father figures has been absolutely no emotional giving. Like not one single emotional, like nothing. But they've all, no gifts. But the entirety of their things have been, shut up and work.
I mean, they're logically not wrong, but emotionally, yeah, it kind of leaves a bit of a space.
Hey, you know what? Money might not buy happiness, but it's really fucking hard to be sad in a Porsche.
There you go.
I think one thing I've definitely noticed between me and my dad, there was that John Adams quote I posted at one point where it's like, I study war and diplomacy so that my son could study trade and economics so that his son could study art and music.
Yeah.
I think I'm the art and music kid in that line so far. And I feel like, Jarrod, you're kind of along the same line here.
Why? Because I draw and play guitar?
Well, I mean, like if somebody took a look at this room, they'd be like, yeah, that's the art and music kid.
I got asked, I went to the hospital the other day to get an x-ray, and on my way out, there was some guy in a wheelchair that saw me with my long hair and my long coat, my big cross. That would be hilarious. But no, he's like, hey, are you a musician? I'm like, this is sort of. I kind of play guitar. He's like, you want to buy an amp? I'm like, no. From some guy in a wheelchair outside the hospital? Are you kidding me?
Everybody is always trying to get rid of their amps.
I mean, let's be honest here. That's probably one of the. If I was to sell an amp, that's the way I'd go about it.
The one amp I needed to get rid of, I got rid of by giving to Jarrod. So,
And it's now sitting in my crawl space because I got another amp.
just Raph out front of the hospital with a sign, need an amp.
With the amp. Why the sign? It's right here, ready to go.
Just like Jared Leto in the beginning of Joker with his flipping sign. Get attacked by a bunch of young rapscallions with their fedora, with the fedoras and the leather jackets. Lead them into a back alley where they beat the shit out of them while they sing like a zooey bop or like some quartet.
Kyle, you're the historian in our circle. Do you know anything about Hitler's dad?
Whoa.
I don't know about his dad, but his granddad was theoretically, rumorly, perhaps, a Jew.
Whoa. Wasn't that on his mom's side?
Yes.
Doesn't count.
But you gotta wonder is like...
So you're telling me my granddad on my mom's side, the one I have all my emotional connection with, doesn't count. Cool.
But you gotta wonder because it's like, in terms of the elements that make up who Hitler became, his dad is never really in that calculation, which means that he either did like a really good job and there's really nothing negative to say about him, or he did something so horrible but it's remained buried in history.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where not a lot, well, extrapolating based off of pure conjecture here, so take this with the biggest possible grain of salt and assume it's wrong. I think most people kind of just assume that it was a mixture of the war and just, general opinions of the time. Because, like, people of that time were super racist. But it's kind of one of those things of, I don't know, I think you just, like, saw a wave of sediment and then kind of just, like, wrote it.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, again, the Nazi party, it's like we just see Hitler because he was the one at the front. Yeah. But there was a troop of way more evil dudes behind that guy.
And keep in mind, like, 30% of the German population said, heck yeah, sign me up, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar.
Yep.
So one out of three people were like, yeah. So it should be a weather.
What about Stalin's dad? Somebody should have beat their kid a little bit more.
Someone, well, see, here's the thing. You say that, but as a teenager, Stalin was a bank robber.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's right. He was a bank robber before the revolution.
He was a bank robber. Full time? Like, that's the whole thing. It's one of those things where when the weather's nice, kind of hard to run.
It's raining out, not today.
Dang it. It's the mud season in Russia. Because, mud is a weather.
Man, you can even look at pictures of, like, young Stalin and be like, man, this guy was a gangster. When he was young, just robbing banks, looking, like, super dashing. Of course, he just strolls into that revolutionary circle and people are like, he's in charge.
Yeah. I mean, we could also talk about something more locally. We could talk about Justin Trudeau's dad. I mean, Castro got a lot done.
Let's just very briefly cover this contention of when you look at pictures of the two of them,
it's pretty uncanny.
Or it's pretty wild. Put Trudeau in the middle, Pierre on one side and Castro on the
at
other.
the same age.
Yeah, everybody at the same age. Like,
Yeah.
how does that look? And you just see the way that Trudeau and Castro smile,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, it's too uncanny.
Here's one thing I'll say, because as much as I love this conspiracy theory,
The timeline doesn't add up.
no. As far as I'm concerned, the timelines do add up. It's
Well-
entirely possible and within reason.
Well, because wasn't it Elliot and what was his mom's name again?
Margaret.
Margaret Trudeau visited
Pierre and Margaret.
Pierre and Margaret
Yeah.
Visited Cuba
Castro.
like 8 months before he was born. So
It
he
was
could.
approximately, and there was like Castro said she was a very nice woman or some comment like that, and they spent time together.
So it could
So
have
it's
been
like,
like,
it's
he was a little
entirely-
bit premature born.
Right? I don't know. I have no idea. But from what I remember,
I
it's
don't know if it was 8 months. I think the timeline actually adds up to a proper amount of time.
Like it's eerily possible.
Yes.
But I will say, if we're going on that idea of taking pictures from when they're younger, I look nothing like my dad when he was a kid. I look exactly like my mom when she was a kid.
You want to hear the
And
weird thing?
my brother looked exactly like my dad when he was a kid.
So here's the weird thing. I actually look more like my stepdad than I do my biological dad, to the point where when shit was going down, my dad was like, he's not even my kid, we're going to do a paternity test. And my blood came back as my dad is my dad.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, shit. I thought I had a get out of jail free card there.
Do you think Bud would have just like, I'm not the father, and just ridden off into the sunset?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Oh my gosh.
I am overtly referred to as the not the mistake, but the accident.
Next year, we got to get our dads to do this instead. It's just Alan, George, and Bud.
Oh my gosh.
Buzz.
Dude.
Buzz.
My dad would not get along with Buzz.
Buzz. Okay,
Buzz
you keep
is-
saying Bud.
Is it Bud or it's Buzz?
Buzz.
My mistake.
So out of curiosity, for everyone here, you got any plans for Father's Day or gifts? I already got my dad a really good steam cleaner for his shower, and I'm going to take him out to Rio, and we're going to eat a medically unsafe amount of steak.
Oh, the Rio Steakhouse.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, nice. On the way here, I bought my dad a Singapore-style beef jerky, and I bought 2 cigars for us to smoke tomorrow.
What would be Singapore style?
I don't know.
I'll have to figure out what I'm doing tomorrow, because Sunday's usually our big family day, and whenever a day like this happens, we like to do one big thing with the family, so it'll be all the dads in the family. In terms of stuff I'm doing for my dad, gift-wise, I always like to go big on the birthday. When it comes to the... No, it's not even a holiday, just a day. I'm
You gonna go see Top Gun?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for spoiling it. Yeah, I'm going to. We're taking my sister and I are taking my dad to go see our
Nice.
see Top Gun at Landmark, and probably for lunch or something around there. Yeah, dinner or something probably at some point. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Unfortunately, my sister doesn't like the VIP at Landmark.
What?
I don't
Wait, what's
understand why.
Landmark?
Landmark is one of those places where...
Landmark Cinema, next to Guilford Mall.
Dude,
Their VIP lounge is like a fully equipped restaurant and bar.
it's so
And
good.
they will like straight up bring you whatever you order to your seat, even. So you can order things beginning and throughout the up to a certain point in the film. You can still.
I know it's
make
like
orders.
once the commercials are starting and stuff, as you're entering the theater, they've got the people with the menu outside. And they're
Right,
like, okay,
yeah.
make your order now. And then when we get inside, they know our seat tickets, so they bring up to your line and go, okay, here's this.
Right,
Question.
yeah.
Can I order a steak while I watch a movie?
Probably.
Yeah,
whatever
they got that on the
have
menu.
it.
I did.
Like what I mean is it's actual food, not like, a
Legit.
burger or
No,
nachos
dude,
or
it's
whatever.
like the first time I went to a Landmark Cinema, I had a chicken parmesan sandwich, which was a terrible idea because I ate something with sloppy hot sauce, and I took one bite, and suddenly my hand was on fire, and it was the middle of a movie in pitch black, and I'm like,
Do they have like shelves or something for you to put your food on? You got like a big.
you get
No,
you get a little
full-
table, but
yeah.
you share it with the person next to you.
No. They have little fold out tables, almost like. airplane stuff. Yeah, I ordered the first 30 to 35 minutes of the Batman for me were nachos and cocktails.
Yeah, I think I got I think I got pulled pork poutine. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And they didn't give me a fork.
So Tina, for some reason, thinks that that's an overrated experience, and she didn't get us the VIP tickets. But it's still I've been very adamant about I want to see Top Gun in theaters. That's where it was
Yeah.
designed to be seen, and
IMAX.
like IMAX particularly. I guess I'm not sure if that is the.
Yeah. Oh no, that was the Peel movie that was filmed with IMAX cameras.
I will say this. Wait, have both of you seen the original Top Gun from the 80s?
Nope.
A long time ago.
So it kind of opens with like just a nice long panning shot of like everyone doing things on the aircraft carrier, and then right as they launch the first plane, like that Highway to the Danger Zone
Yeah.
starts playing, and like it's a fucking great montage. I would honestly
to the danger zone.
Dun, dun, dun. Everyone loves Kenny Loggins. Anyway, I will say the opening bit of that in this one in glorious 4K with the excellent sound design, it is great.
I'm so excited.
Well, because honestly, like there's so many cool things they do, like when planes land on aircraft carriers, they got like a little hook that catches on cables to slow it really down really fast.
Yeah.
And when they're resetting the cables and there's that metal twang as it's going across the deck sounds great. The hiss of the steam catapult and the many camera angles, like they go one way up in the tower and there's like a little bobblehead in the foreground.
Yeah.
As the jets are launching off, they got this little bunker that's between the two catapults, so you just see them go whoosh right by you. It's fucking cool.
Dude, good sound design is so... It makes or breaks a movie.
Oh, it's...
Like, even arguably more than the visuals. Because...
This has got
Think
both.
about how difficult it is to watch a silent movie, but how easy it is to listen to a good radio play.
Which we
Speaking
are
of,
not.
some would say good sound design is very important for a podcast.
No, they're wrong.
I hope we've been doing okay. You can let us know at The Forest Creek on Instagram and on Twitter, and in the comments section if you're watching this on YouTube, or rather listening to it on YouTube. Follow us at All the Above and on Spotify. My favorite place to be honest, in terms of the most painless place to get uploaded and like work with. Spotify. For some reason, Google Podcast takes like 2 to 3 weeks before your podcast shows up there. It can take a while.
That's weird.
Yeah, but
I will be getting Spotify at some point, maybe, now that my phone isn't full all the time.
hey.
Whoa.
But in any case, you guys got any last Father's Day thoughts?
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Happy Father's Day, Papa.
Happy Father's Day, Dad.
And I'd like to give a quick shout out to all the dads, daddies, fathers, uncles, drunk uncles, that one guy who your dad works with who you just call uncle.
And the granddads and the great-granddads.
Omas,
dads to be.
opas,
And
yaya.
your ancient Abrahamic forefathers.
And for 1/4 of you, Genghis Khan.
All right, that's been us at the Forest Creek. We welcome you to join us again anytime. And like I always say, more exciting stuff coming in the future. My name is Raph.
I'm Jarrod.
This is Kyle.
Happy Father's Day. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.